It's Troy week. No, I'm just kidding. Not yet. But one of the videos that I did want to make this month was a reaction to the movie Troy. However, before I do that, I feel like I need to lay down some mythological context. So let's take a very, very abbreviated look at the Iliad. Now, the Iliad is not the story of the Trojan War. It's simply one story within the 10-year span of the war. However, it does encapsulate a lot about the war. In fact, that's what Book 1 of the Iliad is all about. The first thing we read is the proem, which invokes the Muses and also lets us know that this will basically be a poem about Achilles throwing a hissy fit. After which we are introduced to the priest of Apollo, CHRYSES, whose daughter has been snatched up by the Greeks on their way to Troy. CHRYSES has come to ask for his daughter back, even bringing a great ransom, but the Greek general Agamemnon turns him away. CHRYSES prays to Apollo, who lets loose a great plague on the Greek army. This leads to the hero Achilles calling out Agamemnon during a council meeting. "Well, Agamemnon, it looks as if we'd better give up and sail home, assuming any of us are left alive, if we have to fight both the war and this plague." An argument follows, and Agamemnon insists that he deserves his fair share of the plunder. If he has to give up his war bride, then he's taking someone else's. And he's looking at Achilles. This doesn't make Achilles very happy, and he lays down an ultimatum. If Agamemnon does this, then he's not going to fight. Which is a big deal, because out of all the Greek heroes and all the Trojan heroes, Achilles is by far the best. But Agamemnon goes ahead anyway and takes Achilles' war bride, CHRYSES. Achilles goes off to cry, and his mother, the goddess Thetis, comes to check in with him. He asks her to petition Zeus to give the Trojans an upper hand in battle, and she flies off to Olympus to do so. This sparks a rather ferocious conversation between Zeus and Hera. "So sit down and shut up and do as I say. You see these hands? All the gods of Olympus won't be able to help you if I ever lay them on you." Yep, Zeus kinda sucks. This conflict about war brides is the inciting incident for the poem, but also more largely reflective of the inciting incident for the war. Paris taking Helen from Sparta to Troy. Now that event had resounding political implication, but what's going down between Agamemnon and Achilles is more about ego and the glory that a hero deserves. Achilles is fated to die young, but to live a glorious life. If there's any infraction of his perceived glory, then he's not going to risk that short life. Okay, book 1, done. Achilles is off the field, and Zeus has to figure out who he's going to help. There are 23 more of these, so let's get going. Book 2, Zeus sends a dream to Agamemnon to make him falsely believe it's a great time to attack, and that all the gods are on his side. However, Agamemnon wants to play his own game of reverse psychology to make sure his troops are loyal, so he tells them that it's time to pack up, to go home, hoping that instead they will rally to him. But they don't. They start to pack up, because they want to go home. Hera sees this and sends Athena down to try and stop it. Both these goddesses are rather firmly on the Greek side of the conflict. Athena inspires Odysseus, who gives a rousing speech and gets everyone back in line. It's fitting that the hero of this book, which focuses so much on trickery, is the trickster hero himself. The rest of book 2 is just boats. Boats, 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 boats. Every flippin' boat in the Navy. Who's piloting it? How many troops did they hold? Where did they come from? It's just all boats. Book 3, the Greeks challenge the Trojans to one-on-one combat to decide who will win the war. Menelaus, Helen's OG husband, challenges Paris, and after some convincing, he goes out there. Meanwhile, on the walls of Troy, Helen goes to visit the king Priam. This is one of my favorite sections of the poem because it gives us a very rare chance to look through the perspective of Helen. The fight commences and Paris is wildly outmatched, so Aphrodite flies in and yeets him back to Helen's bedroom. The Greeks see this as forfeiting, the Trojans disagree. On to book 4. The gods have just the stupidest argument over the duel. Both Zeus and Hera agree that Menelaus rightfully won, but Hera refuses to see the war end without Troy being burnt to the ground. Hera, calm down. They send Athena down to stir up the fighting, and she does. There's a lot of fighting, lots of death. The gods get involved here and there. Blood, guts. If that's your sort of thing, you're gonna love this poem. But of course there is one hero who is nowhere to be seen. Nor Achilles, son of Thetis, in combat. but nurses his rage in the beachhead camp. Book 5, more fighting, more gods. Athena gives a power-up to the Greek hero Diomedes. Aphrodite tries her hand at combat, but gets it injured by Diomedes. And Apollo convinces Ares to join the Trojan side. Athena and Diomedes face off against Ares and the Trojan hero Hector, brother of Paris, and they have a good old fight. Ares retreats to Olympus, where Zeus tells him that nobody likes him, and all the gods leave the battle. Book 6, picking up right where we left off, the Greeks have the upper hand in battle, and we get a little bit about war etiquette as the Trojans retreat. Hector goes into the city, yells at Paris for being a coward, and Helen joins in. Fun times were had by all. As Hector prepares to return to battle, he talks to his wife, and we build up the tragedy of his death to come and the inevitable fall of Troy. Book 7, the battle ends just as it began with a challenge to single combat. Hector challenges the Greeks to it, and Menelaus wants to respond, but Agamemnon urges him not to, knowing that Hector would easily win. So the Greeks do a little lottery, Ajax the Greater wins, and he steps forward to face Hector. The two heroes battle each other, drawing blood, but before either one can win, the sun goes down and the battle is called off. They now have a lot of respect for each other, they exchange gifts. Isn't friendship fun? Book 8! Guess what? More fighting. Zeus has prohibited the other gods from getting involved. Hector pushes the Greeks back to their ships, and just as Hera and Athena are about to get involved, Zeus reminds them of his command and has some more lovely words for his wife. There is nothing more shameless than you. You two, you need to work this out. Which brings us to Book 9. Agamemnon sends a group of people over to Achilles' tent, hoping to win him back with a hoard of treasure. Achilles is chilling in there, playing the lyre with his buddy Patroclus, and tells them that, nah, he's good. He's going to sail back to Greece in a few days. Oh, and this will be important moving forward. Patroclus and Achilles, they're lovers. It's never directly stated within the Iliad, but that's because it was kind of too obvious to. It's this thing called the silence principle. But the basic gist is that you need to know that because every Greek would have. Book 10, Diomedes and Odysseus go off to do some spying. They run into a Trojan spy named DOLON. They interrogate him, and he spills the beans on some new Trojan allies, the Thracians, and is promptly killed. There is no glory in DOLON's plea of self-preservation, so he dies a coward. Diomedes and Odysseus go off to slaughter the Thracians before returning to their camp. Book 11 returns us to the fighting with a rather important battle, seeing Diomedes, Agamemnon, Odysseus, and a Greek hero named Machon all injured and forced to retreat. The Greek seer, old Nestor, goes to talk to Patroclus, desperately begging him to convince Achilles to come back to the battle. Book 12 sees the Trojans do a full-out assault on the Greek fortifications, despite some omens that they might fail. By the end of the book, Hector has breached the fortifications and is pushing the Greeks back into a full retreat. And the Greeks, en route to their hollow ships, with a noise like the damned stampeded into hell. And I still have 12 more books to get through. I'm sorry, y'all, but this is gonna have to be a two-parter. Join me tomorrow when we look to see if the Greeks can somehow come back from this.